Hello and welcome to this week's Gig Harbor Market Update. September has come and gone and October is here to give us the heebie-jeebies when it comes to looking at the latest and greatest housing data. So before we look at what's happening locally, let's just pull out some spooky headlines. I know it's a little early for Halloween, but again, these Gig Harbor numbers come at the beginning of the month, so bear with me here. All right, some of the latest headlines here. Mortgage demand drops to the lowest level since 1996 as interest rates head towards 8%. Severe crash is coming for U.S. office properties, investors say. We're due for a crash, and the commercial real estate market faces at least another 9 months of declines, according to Bloomberg's latest market pulse survey. And of course, lending restrictions, looming regulations for banks cast long shadow on commercial real estate. And that's really big for people in commercial real estate because banks are tightening lending requirements, which is usually they're bracing for impact, so to speak. I mean, they're dropping their loan to value like to 60% or something like that. You know, usually it's 80%. If you don't know what that is, it's basically 80% means you have to bring 20% of your own money and the bank will float the 80%. Now they're saying you have to bring 40% of your own money and we'll float the rest. So that's quite the dramatic change. And they're also increasing the amount of capital reserve you have to have on hand, like millions of dollars if you're a big investor, because in case you can't make your payments on your debt service, and the bank has that then to draw from. So that's just interesting. And there was one little excerpt that I wanted to take here from this. Let me find it here. Hold on, let me pause it. Okay, I found it was right in front of me. Banks are hitting the pause button on commercial real estate borrowing, and no one is sure when to start again. So anyway, those are our latest and spooky headlines. Again, these are national headlines, but this is our local report, so we're more concerned about what's happening in the Gig Harbor market, and of course Seattle and Tacoma as well, but mostly Gig Harbor. So let's get into what's been happening in Gig Harbor, so you know what's been happening September and well the rest of the year, and how it's going to shape up for the next quarter here till we hit 2024. So let's get right into it. Alright, let's begin by looking at everybody's favorite number, and that is our median sales price, and that is what most houses sell for in Gig Harbor. So let's see, let's do residential, and we're going to do previously owned, and we're going to do, let's do 5 years, 3-month rolling data. Okay, and the reason why we do previously owned, so resales instead of new construction, just take a look. And skews data quite a bit, and just because of these large builders control their inventory, so it's like one seller controls the vast majority of the market, and it just doesn't make any sense because of the incentives that they offer, and it's hard to include into just overall data. So anyway, with that said, let's look at what's happening. And this year we have reached a high of $785 for the year, and we're now down to $750. So that's a drop of $35,000 so far, and month over month we've dropped $20,000. So that's, we're still looking pretty good. We're still we're sitting relatively high, especially compared to what happened last year, and the fact that the interest rates are so high. We're still commanding good prices here, so nothing to scoff at. So we are down 2% from year over year. So last year at this time we're sitting at 765. So definitely no crash in sight, even though it is a small, $15,000 worth of crash. So I'm just kidding. But basically, we're sitting good when it comes to our housing prices. Let's just pull it back 10 years. So I do want to show you that a new trend has been established recently when it comes to the amount of pullback we experience each year. So in the prior years, so you can see all the way back to 2013, really from the peak to the trough, we had on average about a $40,000 drop, between that summer high and the winter low. And recently, since the 2020s, we've been experiencing either $70,000 or $135,000 drop. So that's a huge amount of difference between the high and the lows that we were seeing. Just this 2 times to 3 times as much fluctuation than historical, and it seems to be kind of established as the fact that our home prices are so volatile, it seems, which is probably what's going to happen this year. So this year we were at, again, 785, and I don't see, out of the ordinary for us to drop to that, $700,000 to 675. I think that is very much in range, especially since interest rates are so high. So I can, see us, drop into this let's say 2022 low, January 2022, somewhere in here. I think that's a pretty safe bet. So, if that does cause, some commotion on the headlines, it's very much well within reason, and I don't think it's anything to be too scared about. And, after March, things kind of shoot up, right? Here is in February. So February, March, that's when the spring market kicks off. So, as long as you hold on, don't get scared by the news. That's what to expect for a median sales price. So that's going forward. Yeah, we're still sitting at $750,000. So it's pretty expensive still to buy the median, like 3-bed, 2-bath house in Gig Harbor that's in decent shape in a decent neighborhood. So anyway, with that, let's get into new listings. Select our new listings button, and we will do 1 month data over the last 5 years to get a little bit better picture of what's happening recently. The reason why I do monthly data instead of 3-month rolling is here it says we have 230 new listings in September. However, when we go to single monthly data, it says we have 75. What's true? Well, the single monthly data, because the 3-month data actually combines September plus August and July into one number. So that's the way that it smooths it out. However, I like to get the, it's a better picture this way to see what's happening month over month. So speaking of month over month, we pretty much stabilized here for the last 3 months when it comes to new listings, which is great. But it just goes to show you how few new listings there were in the summer of this year. September is pretty much, September last year, I guess last year is also kind of a outlier, but we're 1 listing off from last year. However, prior years we had, between 95 and over 120 new listings. So historically speaking, we're down from last year. We're pretty much in line. When it comes to October, it's kind of all over the place, really. October can jump here. Let's see if we have something here. Here, it dropped by 17 listings in 2018. September to October actually went up, so by 11 listings. So October's kind of all over the place when it comes to listings. However, once we hit October, then it's really down for the rest of the year. So then November, December, and usually January. Let's see. No, looks like December is the winner, or the loser, I guess, new listings. So once we hit October, really regardless of what October does, the rest of the year I see us, going down to between 20 and 30 new listings, and that should take us to a low, and then hopefully we'll have a pretty mild, well, I don't want to hope for another mild year or sluggish year, but that's what's probably going to happen next year as well. We'll probably have a repeat of what's going on here, so just copy this segment and paste it over, and then you got your market forecast for you. Whew. Anyway, with that said, let's look on, let's see, homes for sale now, pending sales now, close sales, days on market. So this is our days on market. This is basically how long a house is on the market before it gets under contract. It's not until it gets sold, but until it gets its contract. So we're at 21 days, which is a pretty large jump from just the month prior. So we went from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So that's a considerable percentage here as we go into the remainder of the year. This huge spike was when interest rates were dramatically rising, so this is quite out of the ordinary, and this data I don't think goes back too far. Oh, it does, but you can see that we do have relatively spikes that go up to 40 days on market as we enter those very slow winter months. January looks to be the slowest. December for some reason is hanging in there, so about a month for December. Oh, it's higher. So between 20 and 30 days in December, and then reaching a peak of between 40 and 50 days in January, and it looks like we're just heading in that direction. So nothing dramatic in that sense of real estate days on market and how fast houses are moving. So with that said, let's look at inventory. This is quite the graph to go back to if you do max time. I mean, 10 years doesn't even look anything interesting. You pull it back to 2008, 2009, and you have 18 months of inventory. And it's been just declining, and then, it's kind of crushed here by COVID, and, we're starting to tick up again as we're being crushed by the Fed. That being said, let's look at something a little bit more reasonable here. So 2.3 months of inventory. Again, this is not the amount of houses on the market, but it's how long the market takes to absorb the available houses on the market. So we're at 2.3 months, which is still a seller's market. When we get to that 5-6 months, that's when it becomes a balanced market. So we're still a far cry from a balanced market. But our inventory is ticking up. However, as you'll see, our inventory highs for the year tend to be in July, say August or June. So June, July, August is sometime in that summer range, and then it just drops off as there's fewer and fewer listings that happen throughout the remainder of the year. And interesting enough, the least amount of inventory is usually in January. We have January, February. So not a lot of houses to choose from for buyers during those months, but that's okay, just because there's fewer buyers during that time too. But it's something we can expect as we are taking up an inventory, which means that there's more houses for sale than buyers are interested in buying. However, as we do enter the rest of the year, I think we're going to go down again, as we are just going to follow these seasonal patterns. So despite, here it says 3 months, but still, it is the low that occurs during that part of the year. So I don't see any different. I think this is going to drop off pretty sharply here, and then probably go back down to a month to a month and a half worth of inventory as we finish off the year. So that's what's going to happen. So nothing out of the ordinary, and if that does happen, it's pretty much baked into historical data. So don't be surprised if that does come true. Now, what I found fascinating was our percent of original price. And this is basically saying what is the purchase price compared to what the house was originally listed for. So if a house was originally listed for $1 million and got bought for $970, that would mean that was a 3% drop in purchase price. So that's our median percent was actually down. So most of the houses on the market had price drops, or were bought for less, at least. I think it was price drop, because if you go to list price, I think it's it's almost list price. So there was a price drop, and then sometimes the buyer offered a little bit less than the price drop. So here we see that there is quite a few amount of price drops happening currently in the market, and I'll show you that in my dashboard as well, because I've noticed that pretty drastically tick up here locally. I looked at the Redfin data, and it wasn't as pronounced regionally as it is locally. So that's just an interesting tidbit. So that's price drops frequently happening. Price per square foot isn't quite interesting, because it's this is more, if you see this, it's more relevant for like subdivisions or closer communities. It's less valuable for, it's valuable if you're doing like new construction, or if you're doing waterfront only. Then you can get a better sense, because there's just not a lot of new construction waterfront. all types of waterfront here was 480. So that's more, you have a smaller group to choose from, which is better for. Let's go back to what we're saying. Okay, so price per footage, and then of course foot traffic, which is shows per listing, as you would imagine, has gone down a bit as interest rates keep going up. Buyer demand is pretty low, but it's funny that the demand is so low and the listings are so low that they're still kind of neck and neck. However, last month we had 6.3 showings per listing. That has dropped to 4.6%. Let's say 4.5%. What am I saying? No percent. Just 4.6 showings per listing. So that shows quite a drop in. I think, let's go last year we were at 6.2. So yeah, we've had pretty much a 27% drop in buyers over the last month, between August and September. So that's pretty significant decline. Well, at least people interested in viewing the houses. I mean, there could be still a bunch of people on Zillow just poking around and looking at houses. So that's just the people who are actually putting, boots on the ground kind of deal. Okay, with that, I think that's all I have to show you when it comes to data. Oh, I did want to show you the price drops here real quick. Let's see. So just in Gig Harbor alone, we had 31 price drops in the last week. That's huge. Usually, I mean, I saw that right when interest rates were going up and the sellers and buyers didn't quite know what was going on. And then that tapered off as things got a little bit normalized. And we maybe had 2 or 3 price drops, per week, and now it's back up to 31. So it's just goes to show you how the sellers are responding. To both the fact that the season is ending, so they're trying to get their houses off the market before they enter the winter season, and just the fact that I think there's just fewer and fewer buyers, that come knocking and they're like, okay, come just look at our house, come look at buy the house. We'll drop the price. So it looks like. If you're looking if you're in the market for a house, now would be a good time to start negotiating and finding a house, because sellers are desperate and they will come down on price, as you see right in front of you. Okay, I did a lot of talking, so here's the shortest recap that I can possibly imagine. Is there's nothing spooky in this data. If you want shivers down your spine, you should go see Scary Movie. Right now, everything is following seasonal patterns. So even if our median sales price drops by 100,000, or if days on market go up to 40, or whatever we just covered, it's all within the range of normal. So don't be fooled by any sort of news articles. In fact, Gig Harbor is a pretty insulated market. I mean, demographically speaking, we have 25% of our inhabitants are retired. So if there is a recession and a bunch of people get laid off, that's a huge chunk of people that aren't going anywhere, and that means a lot of houses will not hit the market if people are in financial straits. Also, we don't have a lot of Black Rocks and mega landlords that have bought. They usually steer clear of the West Coast just because we're an appreciation market, not a cash flow market. So, the amount of money that they're getting on their investments is really trapped in the equity until they sell, and they'd rather have just a consistent return for the investors. So we don't have to worry about that. So, it's really not much, and I think that Airbnb stuff is just a drop in the bucket, and that if all the people in Gig Harbor with Airbnb sold because Gig Harbor made them illegal or something, it's still, they would get absorbed quickly, and it shouldn't impact our market much because there aren't that many. So going forward, I think even if we do have a national crash in the housing market just because of inflation, nominal and real prices, we can get to that later as we get further along in this inflation cycle, but we're pretty insulated, so no reason to sell, no reason to panic. Just stay the course. And just to show you how robust our housing market is, let me show you, if you didn't see this latest and greatest house. Let me pull it up here. This was 8004 Warren Drive. It went pending in less than a week, and the asking price $8.5 million overlooking Fox Island. So this is a no inspection, no contingency. Somebody came in, and before we go into it, I like to look at Zillow because it does give you some data from their end. So it was 7 days on Zillow. It's 288 saves. So that's the amount of people that actually were so interested in it they bother saving it. So it just shows you that there's a huge chunk of people looking to buy very expensive homes on the waterfront and likely to sell faster than 92% of the homes nearby. So that just shows you that there's a lot of rich people looking to buy in Gig Harbor, and for me that's great because I want to build expensive waterfront houses, and that goes to show you that there's people willing to buy them. And if I build a $8 million house, I won't have any trouble finding somebody as long as the house is in good condition. But it's just amazing that there's so much money floating around. But yeah, that's 5 bed, 7 bath, 9,000 square foot. It's private. What it's interesting about this house, it's so close to the Fox Island Bridge. I don't think I'd want to live there. You can see it from this. All these pictures are distorted because it's shot with a wide angle lens. So this bridge is pretty close to this house. But it has its own dock, but you can hear I mean, even when I drop my kid off at school, I essentially pass the Foxtown traffic, and it's pretty intense in the mornings and the evenings. So I hope they enjoy it. It's like a great outdoor space, but it's one of those things that maybe these people bought this without even going there and really going during rush hour. So it's just interesting. Wow. Zestimate was at 4 million, shot up to 8. Anyway, I've taken up too much of your time. Thank you for watching it. And as the mug says, have a great day.